Jai Shri Govardhan Parikrama ki Jai. Jai Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki Jai. And Jai Shri Gurudev Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Oh.
Jai Srila Guru Maharaj Srila Bhakti Rokha Sridhadev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Оставьте преданных. Мы смотрели на себя. Окей. Yes, yes. Maharaj Jai, Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj ki Jai, Shri Braj Mandal Parikram ki Jai. I was just saying we want to see the devotees, as many as possible on the screen.
Okay. They're joining one by one, two by two. And here's Sri Hari Prabhu in disguise in his car. Okay, the banditos of Brazil. Just see, Vaishnava bandits. Hare Krishna. All right, dear devotees, very welcome. We're coming together. We're gathering, as always when we're in Govardhan, we're gathering in front of Srila Gurudev's Pushpa Samadhi, the beautiful temple in remembrance of Srila Gurudev's disappearance, of his disappearance pastime, but in remembrance of Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, and where we all feel very greatly his presence. So as we speak, the numbers are going up as devotees come together. We can suggest you leave your slippers behind, but leave your shoes behind, but bring some water to drink while you are out on the parikrama, because it'll be hot. And you don't have to worry about baggage, because we're on Zoom parikrama. Otherwise, we would say, make sure you've got your bags all safely secured. All right, we're a couple of minutes in. So dear devotees, happily with you. And I think just to get us started, our Gupta Govardhan team there, they can chant for us Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda and 2 Mahamantras and Nitai Gaura Haribol. And by that time, we'll be 5 minutes in and we'll have mostly our devotees present.
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda,
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda,
Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All right, so dear devotees, we are in front of Srila Gurudev's Pushpa Samadhi in Govardhan at our Srila Sridhar Swami Seva Ashram in Govardhan. So let us first give our obeisances to Srila Gurudev, Jai Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, and to Srila Guru Maharaj, Jai Srila Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. And we can do a once parikrama of Gurudev in our hearts at his Pushpa Samadhi, and we'll visit to Anugiriraj in just a moment before we leave. But first of all, we'll take Gurudev's permission for us to go from Govardhan on this, our third day of parikramas. And because we don't have to rely on buses and trains, we can try to fulfill some wishes of the devotees. So today we're heading over to Jaipur, and Jaipur is very important for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas because many of the deities of Vrindavan, by their design, their choice, they went to Jaipur in the time of the big disturbances from the Muslims in 1670 from Aurangzeb. So Jaipur is very important for the devotees. But before we go, we have a request. And that is, devotees have heard about Uchagaon, the place of Lalita Devi, and of Terkandi or Kadambakandi, which is the bhajan place of Rupa Goswami, both situated, one is just very near Nandagram, Terkandi is right beside Nandagram, and just beside Varshana, Radharani's place, is the place of, or very close to there, is the place Uchagaon, the place of Lalita. And because Uchagaon was a very dear place of Govinda Maharaj, and Terkandi was a very dear place of Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, devotees are asking, can we just go there on our way to Jaipur? And the answer is yes, we can, because we're on Zoom. So let us make a little sacrifice. And for just a few minutes, what we will do, we're actually going to take a bus, but we're going to chant just 2 Maha Mantras and come first to Uchagaon. And so now we take Gurudev's permission at his Samadhi and we come in front of Anugiriraj, the deity there in our Srila Sridhar Swami Seva Ashram. We come in front of Anugiriraj and give our obeisances to him. Taking their permission, we'll start our journey. We're going to make a brief stop at Uchagaon and at Terkandi. And if we chant just 2 Maha Mantras, then we'll pick up the thread there. Gupta Govardhan. So we come down from the bus, we're at Uchagaon, and we have crossed various holy places, but we're giving our attention right now to Lalita's place. We heard from Goswami Maharaj a couple of days ago about how Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, had such wonderful experience, some very personal and strong experience at Uchagaon, in the association of Guru Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, that Gurudev was very happy the devotees go there to give their obeisances and honor to Lalita Devi. But he himself, he declined repeated invitations that we will take Gurudev to Uchagaon so he could explain something while we are there. He declined repeated invitations and offers and said, please, you all go, I'm happy, but I do not want any other experience there except what I have experienced with Guru Maharaj. So he's happy we went there. And okay, here is the picture highlighted on the Infinity Media screen. And as with many temples, the temple is on the top of a hill. And it is there for a reason, for protection, because Kamsa and others, they have definitely given a challenge to the godly, the God-fearing persons. And so Vrishabhanu Raj, he made a temple on the top of this hill, and this is Uchagaon. And Vrishabhanu, he's Radharani's father. He made a temple at Vashana on the top of a hill. And Lalita, she appeared. Someone can fill in the gaps. I don't know of a father of Lalita, but Lalita Devi, she is there on the, brought up there on the top of this hill of Uchagaon. So we walk up these stairs and we come up here, and very much remembering Gurudev and Guru Maharaj, we come here and very respectfully give our obeisances to the deities, some donation, do parikrama, and at this place, and we do hear something of the glories of Lalita Devi. There's a photograph of the temple there on the top of the hill, and how Lalita Devi, she's making the arrangement for the savor of Radha and Krishna, and even she's in the recruiting department. And Gurudev told her on Lalita's appearance day that she herself goes around with pen and paper and taking names. So please, you come, you enroll, sign your name here and enroll in the savor department here in this fine section. So Lalita Devi's place we are coming to, and it is until today very gentle place with literally the bullock carts and the very simple lifestyle in the village around. And it has not become like a big Hindu pilgrimage place as such. It's generally quite quiet. And nearby there are some holy kunds, and the area is all auspicious, this area where every speck of dust is worshipable to us. So we've come to Uchagaon, we've given our obeisances, and now with this remembrance of Lalita Devi, then and of Srila Gurudev, his dearmost place in the whole of the Mathura Mandal, the Vrindavan Dham Parikrama that he went on with Srila Guru Maharaj. And from here, we're going to go just a short distance past the temple, the Vashana on the top of the hill. That is a very, very busy temple. Very often we give our obeisances from the bottom, our respect to Vashana, the place of Radharani, which naturally Lalita's place is very close to Radharani's place. And a little further on to Nandagram, the place, of course, where Krishna was brought up in his young age. It means Nandagram is Nanda Maharaj's gram. Again, the temple is on the top of a hill. So when we are short of time like we are today, we may give our obeisances from beneath the hill where we can see fully the temple at the top of the hill. And we are going to give our attention today to go just nearby through generally rice fields. When we come down from the temple, we turn left. Down from the Nandagram temple, if we were coming downhill, we turn left. Continue a short way within the town still, we turn right on a very small track. And on this track, we go down there, and right out in the rice fields, there's a beautiful area which is fenced off and has palm trees and has, I think every time I've gone, has got peacocks there. Peacocks are very common there, and they like that environment very much. And just by seeing these peacocks even before we arrive, then this is the place known as Kadamba Kandi or Ter Kandi. And this is the place of Rupa Goswami's bhajan. And this is the place most dear to Guru Maharaj when he was on the Brajamandal Parikrama with his Guru, our Param Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So to this place we come and we give our obeisances, small donation, parikrama, and then we hear the glories of Rupa Goswami, Rupa Goswami's writings, his staying here at Terkandi or Kadambakandi. And until today, this is very like private place, if you like. It's a very private place. Again, it's not on the Hindu pilgrimage trail as such. It takes a little effort to get there. And when we are there, then we engage in some kirtan, engage in some harikatha, and remember, of course, especially Guru Maharaj as his dearmost place, and Rupa Goswami. Then there is a kund there. Generally, we do parikrama around the kund, often with Harinam Sankirtan. And the peacocks invariably are there. And even when we're giving class, those of you who've been there, the peacocks are walking like right behind us and walking around us. So it's a very sweet, gentle place. And by the request of the devotees, we've come to these two places today because we can, to give our honor, to give our respect, especially in relationship to Srila Gurudev and to Srila Guru Maharaj, the places of Lalita Devi and of Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir here. Now from here, because we can, we are going to give our obeisances to everything in this area. We're giving our, walking on our head as we go everywhere. And now we are going to start on the leg of the journey that takes us to Jaipur. So we won't take the bus, we'll take the train, because taking the train is so sweet. And the bus is a little bumpy and noisy. So from here, we'll take the bus instantly, almost, to the railway station at Govardhan. And even the railway station, the platform name is Govardhan, spelt a little differently, but Govardhan railway station. And if anybody boards the train in Mathura, then from Mathura, this is the first stop on the train, is at Govardhan, and then from Govardhan, then it's a few hours. I don't recall exactly how many, maybe 4 or 5 hours to get from here to Jaipur. So for the train journey and the pilgrimage and the change of scene from Govardhan and Brajamandal over to Jaipur, then I think we need 2 more Mahamantras to take us there. Please.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Okay, so bringing your luggage from the train and a very easy train ride. I told you it was an easy train ride. We've come easily on the train to Jaipur. We've come out from the train, and actually this very first part, we need to just get our accommodation in Jaipur. We've arrived in the early evening, late afternoon, early evening. And to get our accommodation, we're going to go to a place which is known as Jai Nivas. And I don't know how the devotees found this place, but the owners or the managers, they really are very welcoming. They make all facility for us so that we can do bhajan. If it's raining inside, if it's not raining outside, they themselves bring the public and guests who stay there to come and participate and join in our bhajans and hear about Govinda, hear about Krishna. And it's like walking into our own ashram, practically.
Maharaj,
Very welcoming.
We've been going there for almost 30 years.
Aha.
So really, they're like a family.
That's the influence of the Vaishnavas. I've been going to Jaipur, to that area, I think 3 years perhaps. So I'm a new boy in Jaipur, except I did go there first of all, before ever being a devotee, and coming overland from England all the way through many places, came to Jaipur. And my memory of Jaipur was it was a very quiet town with very few cars. But now it's a little bit less quiet with a few more cars floating around. But Jaipur is Jaipur. Why have we come here? And we've come here because of the deities, because of the history with the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and especially because of Govindaji. So first of all, we settle into our accommodation, bathe, whatever it may be, have an evening program, and then get ready for tomorrow morning, which is going to be just in a moment. That is, that tomorrow morning we will wake up and get up at 3:15 in the morning, bathe, and then we'll walk from here to the temple of Govindaji, who is in the center. The temple is in the very center of town. And if somebody is very efficient, like Paramananda Prabhu, maybe there are some rented rickshaws that actually turn up. But to be sure, the safest way to be reliable is to give time to walk to the Govindaji Temple. And so we prepare ourselves for the morning. Now it's morning, very early morning, bathe, get ready, and we're going to the Govindaji Temple. It's, of course, is very quiet at this time. Practically there's no traffic, no anything. And one thing about walking to the Govindaji Temple is that you do find, there are other people walking in Jaipur. But what do you find? That they're all walking like a one-way street. They're all going in one direction, and they're all coming to have darshan at of the Mangalati of Govindaji. This Govindaji is the Govinda, worshipped by Rupa Goswami and discovered by Rupa Goswami, worshipped by Rupa Goswami. And this Govindaji came from I think, 7-story tall Govindaji temple, the sandstone temple in the center of Vrindavan that we visited a week or so ago on the Vrindavan Parikrama. And during the reign of terror of Aurangzeb, throughout Vrindavan, which was a huge massacre and a huge disturbance for many Vaishnavas slaughtered, many people killed, a big tragedy there, and there are all kinds of horrific accounts of what took place. And the deities, for their safety, the deities, by their wish, were taken by the Vaishnavas and brought for safety to Jaipur, which had a very strong military and a very Vaishnava, very religious, ethical Kshatriya community. So they were very strong there to protect the deities. And so the city of Jaipur, we'll hear just now from Paramananda Prabhu, but what's very noticeable to us, myself going there for the first time in many years, is that really the whole city is centered around the king's palace, and in the king's palace, the deity and temple of Govindaji. And here, as we are walking and coming closer to the temple, we find more people walking beside us, all going in the same direction. And we come to the temple before the deities open, and there is so much like excitement in the air. There's so much excitement for the opening of the curtains. And actually, we get there a little bit earlier when we can, 15 minutes or so before the opening time. And then, which would be around 4:30 when we were there at that time. I understand it can change with the summer and winter. But then 15 minutes before or so, then people are already singing and chanting and banging gongs. And then one priest comes and he's got a big key, the old-fashioned kind of key with a round top and the part and the piece at the bottom. And as this priest comes with the key, then everyone gets more and more excited. And the priest opens the big wooden door of the temple part of the temple, you know, the temple with the deity inside. And he opens that, and then there's lots of roaring and very much happy, Govinda Jaya Jaya, Gopala Jaya Jaya. And then you still don't get darshan, because behind that are some curtains. And so anyway, with every movement, with other priests coming, the anticipation becomes higher. And then presently, the deity is opened, and then there's grand chanting, and the arati takes place. And it's just a wonderful joy to see the city of Jaipur, that there is, at least there is one place in the world where people are very Krishna-centered, very Govinda-centered indeed. And then with the arati, everyone's very eager to get the water from the conch that's been bathing on their heads. And then prasadam is distributed, the tulsi leaves, etc. And whoever gets prasadam, whether it's tulsi or some sweets, whatever it may be, their very nature is to turn around and share with those who did not get, and then have a little piece for themselves and maybe take that home to their family. But it's very much a sharing place. And then the parikrama of the deities, where they'll go around 3 or 4 times around the deities. And that parikrama looks like it's continuous for the next maybe hour. But what's happening is that they're doing their parikrama and leaving. And then as fast as they're leaving, more people are coming in to give their obeisances and then do the parikrama of the deities. And it's just a very infectiously enthusiastic place to be. So this is the center of Jaipur. The Govindaji really is the attraction, means to have darshan of the Govindaji deity and to know the history and to see the nature of the town. It is a great devotional highlight for the devotees, we can say. So at this point, I'd like to pass the microphone over to Paramananda Prabhu, because actually it's by his grace and encouragement that our parikram parties that used to basically be Vrindavan and Govardhan, that they extended to go to Jaipur, because as Paramananda Prabhu just mentioned, he's been going there for maybe 30 years and has much experience in Jaipur. And now we can pass over the microphone and he can take us from here to, well, first of all, be in the Gowinduji Temple and then take us to other places within the town, within walking distance that we can visit to Gopinath and other deities. So Paramananda Prabhu, over to you, and we are all very grateful that you've encouraged us to come to Jaipur this year again.
Maharaj, just by listening to you, I'm already transported into the middle of that crowd that doing parikrama around Sri Radha Govinda deities. And really, I was just telling Bhakti Lalita Didi how quite often I would come to see Srila Gurudev, and when Srila Gurudev was present, we would always flock around him. We wouldn't really go anywhere. Wouldn't go for a parikrama unless Srila Gurudev orders so, or there's a blessings from him. But I would always go for a little business to Jaipur, and every time I come to pay dandavats and ask permission I basically ask for leave. Gurudev asked, "Why are you going there, Prabhu?" And he would always ask, "Business?" I said, "Yes, Gurudev, business." And, "Oh, then you can go." And then I realized he didn't want me to go there and do my eye exercise without service, without his blessings. But now really we have that service. And we're in the company of the Vaishnavas. So we're serving the devotees. And really our focus is the Vaishnavas that belong to our family, our Rupanuga line. They're all very intimately connected to that place, especially when we're considering that the deities, the very deities that worshipped, and so many pastimes related to them are there in Jaipur at the moment. And just like I was remembering when you mentioned the devotional attitude of the residents of Jaipur, and also the Kshatriyas who ruled the kingdom, and still till this day they're ruling the kingdom. I remember how in Srimad Bhagavatam there's a description of Raja Rishis, the pious kings, the kings were full of wisdom, and there were so many devotional qualities, and there are so many stories in Srimad Bhagavatam related to those kings. Well, we can call the kings of Rajasthan, especially the kings of Jaipur, Raja Bhaktas. And really, they were the Raja Bhaktas. They were the kings, but they considered themselves to be the lowest servants of the deities. And quite a few of them, I cannot say for all, but quite a few of them were the followers of Sri Gaudiya line, the disciples of our esteemed acharyas in our line. So taking that into consideration, also we heard one of the first Zooms on our parikrama, we heard Sripad Devashish Prabhu telling us this story, how the temple manifested, how Govinda gave inspiration to one of the kings who actually started the city of Jaipur, because remember, the city manifested later. In the beginning, there was a fort, which is called Amber Fort, and we will go there. We will go nearby. We have no interest in the fort itself, and it's a big tourist destination, of course, but there's a little place called Kanak Vrindavan, which means a little Vrindavan, a very sweet place. We will visit that place shortly, but now we're in the temple of Shigovinda. So remembering the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, we also remember the story, and we heard the story from Srila Gurudev, at least maybe Srila Guru Maharaj would tell the same story. You can confirm that, Maharaj or Devashish Prabhu, about how the deities of Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinath were manifested. And that happened by their divine will. But there are two key personalities in that pastime. One was the Uttara Devi, who still remembered how Krishna looked like, and her grandson, Bajranath. And he's taking some direction from Uttara Devi. He's ordering deities, different deities, because he's beautifying the Braja Mandal, establishing temple, ordering different deities for different places. So he wanted to make a deity that really resembles Krishna. So they made the first deity, and then he's showing it to Uttara. And Uttara is seeing the deity saying, oh, I see the lotus feet of this deity are just like the Krishna. And the rest, possible, everything is possible. He can manifest in any form. But the lotus feet, I can assure you, they're just like the Krishna lotus feet. And that deity became Madan Mohan deity. Then later on, another form of Krishna got manifested, another Murti, and it was brought by Bajranath to his grandmother. And grandmother says, oh, the chest, the feet, the legs, the chest, they're just like Krishna's. So that deity became known as Shigovinda. And when the third deity was manifested, then Uttara should draw her veil and cover her face and say, oh, this is just as Krishna himself, and that is Madan Mohan. So we hear that wonderful stories, but really, like Srila Guru Maharaj said, it is all designed and destined to happen. It is all happening by their sweet will. How they manifest, what are their pastimes of manifesting, everything is possible. And we're hearing different stories about it, but at least this story I heard from Srila Gurudev. So Srila Govindaji, we're back to Gowinduji Temple right now. And really with Gowinduji Temple, I have a personal story. And like Srila Gurudev, he had the miracle collection. And I'm pretty sure every devotee have some miracles in their life that basically confirming, yes, Krishna exists, Radharani exists, the devotees are real. So that kind of story happened. I'm not going to put any names on different personalities who participated in that particular story, but there was one devotee who really wanted to know who is Krishna, how Krishna really looked like. And I tried my best, but really I'm the last person to ask how Krishna looked like and who is Krishna. So luckily, during that time when that question was in the air, Sripad Ashram Maharaj came over, and I passed it on to Srila Ashram Maharaj and said, Maharaj, please, satisfy these devotees' hankering and explain how Krishna looked, who is Krishna, what are his qualities. So Maharaj really tried. It was almost like Ashram Maharaj. He will give his best, 2 hours of how Krishna looked like, how wonderful he is, and quoting Guru Maharaj, quoting Gurudev, quoting Shastras. Still, that devotee hankering wasn't satisfied. It was satisfied to some extent, but still asking, who is, I'm not getting that clear picture. And I said, okay, then you pray to Gurudev. And very soon we're going to India. In the first place we're going to land in is Jaipur. And maybe by the grace of Srila Govinda Maharaj, when we go to this temple of Govindaji, you may have some revelation, who knows? So we went there, and we're standing. Just now we saw a little video of people on the background. There's a big crowd, the excitement building up. But there are some people who are standing on the back. They're waiting from afar. They wanted to have darshan from afar without all the pushing and shoving around. So I'm standing there, and that person is standing next to me. We're just waiting, and thousands of people. Any given day, 5,000 people plus. That is the situation. And really, and during the darshan, that parikrama, it's like the river of people, and more currents flowing into this big river. They're flowing out and flowing in, flowing out and flowing in. And it's just had this tendency to increase to the point that you have to, you almost push to the wall. It's getting that, and the current increases. So it's full of people. And then the pujari comes out with the key. Then the doors are open. Behind the doors, there's a curtain, two layers of curtains. One layer opens up, and then the excitement builds up. And then we're watching, we're looking at the pujari, and then suddenly pujari points. He's just pointing out like that. And okay, he's pointing out, and I'm thinking, where is he pointing out? And it's continuing for a while, and then I'm realizing he's kind of pointing out in the direction we're standing, and I'm doing that. I'm just looking back and forth behind me, thinking, well, what's he pointing? And then he looked back at the pujari, and he points at me pretty much. He says, next to you. And then I'm doing this, and I'm asking, this person? And he says, yes. He says, come, bring her, come over. And I don't know what to say. I said, I brought that person. Pujari took her and set her right next to the lotus feet of Govinda. As soon as you open the curtains, this is the first thing you see, the lotus feet of Govindaji. And that was that miracle. And after that, what happened? Like we hear that verse from Srila Rupa Goswami, Smiram Bangi Traya Parichitam Sachivistirna Drishnim Vamshin Yasadharam Keshalayam Keshalayam Ujvala Chandra Kena Govinda Kyam Harita Numiha Keshi Tirtha Pakante Yak Prekshishtas Tavaya Disake Sangabangis Tiranga. He said, you will forget everything. Whatever you keep dear to your heart, you will forget all of that. If you go and see that beautiful form of Govinda standing on the banks of Jamuna near Keshigat, and the beautiful shining moon, full moon illuminates his wonderful body bent in three places, then everything is finished for you. And the first thing that happened, immediately shortly after that, that person takes shelter of Srila Govinda Maharaj. And later she comments, she says, the first thing that happened after that, I lost all my friends. Really, they all disappeared from my phone list. Like none, I had to recover them. Like years later, I have to reconnect. But this is what happened. I had no other friends but the devotee friends. So something like that happened. So really, it is a wonderful place. And just as we're there, when you look at the lotus feet of Govinda, you will see a small, relatively small, but infinitely huge deity standing there. And there's also a very special deity that was manifested by Mahaprabhu himself. And the name of that deity is Gaur Govinda. As we know, Mahaprabhu had two servitors. So we start from Srila Ishvara Puri. So Ishvara Puri had two servitors. One was named Govinda, another was named Kasishvara, also known as Kasishvara Pandit. So before Ishvara Puri leaves the world, he gives instruction to both of them. After I leave this world, you go to Puri and you serve the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is my dying wish, and there you will find all your desires to be fulfilled. And we hear how Govinda, he goes straight, and shortly after Kasishvara Pandit, he joins Govinda. And we hear a lot about Govinda, but there is also mention of service of Kasishvara Pandit in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we heard that he was very strongly built. And when Mahaprabhu is going through the crowds to have a darshan of Lord Jagannath, Kasishvara Pandit, he's making sure that the crowds and people not touching the transcendental divine body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was acting as a bodyguard, but also doing so many menial services for Mahaprabhu. And at some point, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gets the news about Govinda deity discovered by Srila Rupa Goswami in Vrindavan. And they're in the need of a pujari, of the servitor. And then Mahaprabhu is telling Kasishwar Pandit, you go and you help Rupa Goswami to serve Govinda deity in Vrindavan. And it's a heartbreaking moment, really. Well, I'm having difficulty to understand how heartbreaking it is for someone who is being serving directly to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, leave his association, even on his orders. So Kasishwar is saying, if you're giving me these instructions, you want me to go, then my heart will be broken in 2 pieces. I will die, I will leave my body right here. So don't insist on that. Then Mahaprabhu said, do not worry, Kasishwar, I'm coming with you. And then he manifests this beautiful deity of Gaur Govinda, gives him to Kasishwar Pandit. And then Kasishwar Pandit leaves for Vrindavan, where he faithfully serves Radha Govinda. And this is Gaur Govinda. Ki Jai.
Right.
So Maharaj, and of course, on the way back, we may visit a very friendly temple of Lord Lakshmi Narasimha, just because devotees are so sweet over there and they like other devotees to come and have some kirtan. And then normally we will go to a temple nearby, 2 temples nearby, and one of them will be, and we're going to walk to the whole compound, like Maharaj said, it really is in the heart of the city. So we're going to walk back to the main road, and there will be a very humble place, which is known as Radha-Damodar Temple. So Maharaj, would you like to take us there?
Well, I'll follow you because I may get lost.
Anyway, so we're getting out of that royal palace compound, crossing the road. There's a little corner, so we keep going. We're not turning right, left. We keep going straight while exiting that compound. And on the right-hand side, about 150 meters from there, we will see stairs going up and a very humble sign saying Radha-Damodar Temple, and many stairs. And then we go up, and really it's a very sweet temple with the beautiful beautiful deities of Radha-Damodar, Radha-Vrindavan, Chandra, and quite a few other deities that were kind of inherited due to Aurangzeb invasion. They came from Vrindavan and surrounding places. Here's the temple. And pujaris are very friendly and they really like the devotees. They always give us Mahaprasad, happy for us to have some kirtan. And normally we will stay there, we will remember the glories of Srila Jiva Goswami, and we know that the deities came from Rupa Goswami to Jiva Goswami, and Jiva Goswami was worshipping those deities of Radha Govinda. And Maharaj, you can tell us, we're neighbors with Radha-Damodar Temple. It was all happening right there where our temple is manifested, so beautifully manifested. So please give us some insight.
I think we already did in earlier programs when we were in Vrindavan.
Still, we're hankering for more.
The point is this, that the original deities, they've come to Jaipur, and as we will find out when we go to another temple, which is the Radha Gopinath Temple, there is always a debate in the modern age between Jaipur and Vrindavan, as which are the original deities and which are the Pratibhu Murtis. The Pratibhu Murti means the replacement Murti, which is considered exactly the same as the original Murti. So really for us, for the devotee family, we don't mind. They may debate as much as we like. We are very happy that whether the Pratibhu Murti or the original Murti, though in general we understand the originals are in Jaipur, but either way, we are giving our full obeisances and full respect that here are the deities that have been worshipped by, in this case, Jiva Goswami and the Radha-Damodar, the Damadar deity, specifically commissioned and given by Rupa Goswami to Jiva Goswami for his worship. And as with Govindaji, that Govindaji came very prominently to the king's palace. But as with Govindaji, then you can say, smaller deities in external appearance, they also came and took refuge, as it were, in Jaipur. So Radha Madana Mohan, Radha Govinda, Radha Gopinath, these principal deities of Vrindavan, they all came to Jaipur, and Gopinath is there now, and Govindaji we've just visited, and Radha Madana Mohan used to be in Jaipur, and then he had his particular leela and desire that he will go to a place called Karoli, which I've never been to, and I believe Paramananda Prabhu has been to, so he can also take us there in a few minutes. He can take us there to the Karoli temple. So the principal deities, including Damadar, Radha-Damodar, and we are told to the Vrindavan Chandra deity of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, also came to Jaipur. So in this way, Jaipur really has the deity presentation, if you like, of the greater charges from Vrindavan, and extremely closely related with Vrindavan in all these aspects, and of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, because it's not only that the deities were being threatened and in some cases broken and so many things during the tirade of Aurangzeb in 1670, but the devotees also, they were fleeing for their lives, and some description, some official report gives some really quite dramatic descriptions of the Jamuna river being red with the blood of the slaughtered Vaishnavas, etc. So, I mean, really it was a very heavy time. In the modern age, everybody's getting very worried over some quite small things in relation to what took place at that time. But the devotees also came over to Jaipur. So Jaipur is very much a seat of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And as Paramananda Prabhu said, the king, also the line of kings, certainly some of them were Gaudiya Vaishnavas, as we'll hear presently when we hear about the pastimes that took place nearby in Galta. And one thing I'd just like to say about the Govindaji deity too, the second time I ever went to Jaipur was maybe in 1985, and in devotional service, I was given some duty to go to Jaipur, but I was alone, not with another devotee. I needed to go there and do something and then come back. And then in the evening, I went to the Gowinduji Temple. And, you feel quite alone in a city, which, you only know basically the couple of places that you're meant to be visiting. So I went to the Gowinduji Temple. And so this is the first time I ever actually went to the temple of Govindaji. And in the evening, got there in the early evening, and then arriving in the temple, how at home I felt that what is being sung in the temple was Kiva Jaya Jaya Gaura Chandir Arati Koshoba. And I mean, really how that makes us feel at home when we've come over from Bengal, from Chaitanya Saraswat Mat in Navadip, and just we've come here to Jaipur and we feel so at home. And again, that mood in 1985 was so sweet amongst the devotees, and specifically I remember at that time, that one aged man, very bright-faced, jolly, long-bearded, old man, was distributing the Charanamrita, but he was distributing it, taking Govindaji's name, taking Krishna's name, and distributing in like a very jolly way. And the mood at that time was extremely jolly. So just how at home the devotees are and that home feeling when we come to Govindaji Temple. So yes, we're nearby now. We're at the temple of Radha-Damodar, and again nearby will be the temple of Radha Gopinath. There's also a temple of Radha-Vinod nearby. And Paramananda Prabhu is the one who knows these temples, and he personally knows the pujaris in them too. And so, Paramananda Prabhu, over to you.
All right, so we're going down the stairs, turning left. I'm trying to follow your style. We're turning left, we're walking another 100 meters, then turning left again. And really here you have to be very careful, because There is no sign whatsoever. It's the most hidden gem of Jaipur. If you ask people, nobody really knows. No sign, nothing. And to the left, there will be just an open area. There's not even a door, but stairs going up. And you go up those stairs, then you turn right. And then suddenly you're in a courtyard. And suddenly you're seeing this beautiful form of Radha-Vinod deity worshipped by Srila Lokanath Das Goswami. And again, it's a beautiful story. And we hear how Krishna, he appears to serve his devotee. Of course, devotees, they don't want any service from Krishna, but it's happening. He's very tricky. We know one of his qualities, he's super tricky. He did similar thing to Sanatan Goswami. When Madan Gopal came to Sanatan Goswami, slowly he wants to satisfy his devotee because Sanatan Goswami is so renounced. He is eating the balls of wheat dough, basically fried over the coals. Nothing, no ghee, no salt, nothing. So Madan Gopal, he is requesting a little salt in the beginning, arranging for that. A little ghee later on, also arranging for that. But it's not for himself. He wants Sanatan to honor that prasadam. He wants to nourish his devotee. So we heard so many stories about how renounced Lokanath Das Goswami was. And really, his story is heartbreaking. It reminds me of Srinivasacharya's story. Because when Lokanath Goswami, he hears about Mahaprabhu's pastimes, naturally, he wants to go, and he goes. He wants to see Mahaprabhu. He hears that Mahaprabhu went to take sannyas. Then he goes to meet him. Then while he is going in that direction, Mahaprabhu goes, as we know, to Advaita Acharya, and shortly after that, he leaves for Puri. So Lokanath changes his course. He tries to go to Puri. By the time he is almost in Puri, he receives the news that Mahaprabhu went on his South Indian tour. Immediately, he starts for South India. By the time he reaches, he's trying to catch up with Mahaprabhu. He hears the news that Mahaprabhu is already back to Puri and he is on his way to Vrindavan. It's a heartbreaking story, and he goes to Vrindavan, but well, he's practically in Mathura. He receives the news Mahaprabhu just left with Balabhadra, Krishna Das, that Rajput devotee of Mahaprabhu, Sanadiya Brahman, and a servant, a Bengali servant of Balabhadra. And they're going towards Triveni. So his heart is broken and he wants to leave his body. Then Mahaprabhu appears to him and says, please, Lokanath, you stay here. Very soon you will be joined by Srila Rupa in Sanatan. And I have so much service for you to do. And one of that will be a young man will come and his name will be Narottam. You give your shelter to this person. He is my dear devotee. So we heard that story. So Lokanath Das Goswami, he is extremely renounced. We hear how he turns the water pot down. He doesn't want any interaction with anybody. Changes places where he is staying. Each day there's another tree by the kund here and there, always moving, always on the move. But in his heart, of course, he's always hankering for seva. But Krishna is also witnessing that pastime. And then Krishna decides, I have to take care of my devotee. And then that story has been told in many different ways, but I heard it from, again, one version from Srila Gurudev, that Lokanath Das Goswami, experiencing that intense desire to serve Krishna. He hears in the middle of the night, he hears that he's been called by somebody from the bushes. And then in the morning, he wakes up and he investigates the area. And then he finds these beautiful deities of Radha-Vinod. And later on, Krishna appears in a dream and says, I have come to fulfill your desire. Now worship me. And the first thing he says, now, what are you going to do? I need some temple. I need some food. You have to arrange for that. And Lokanath Das Goswami, he builds a temple. What is his temple? And this is more luxury than he would ever allow himself. He takes a cloth like that, and then he makes a temple out of this cloth. So he wraps it around his neck like that, and then he puts Radha-Vinod deity, and then he carries Radha-Vinod everywhere. But since it's a small place, Braj is a small place, and Lokanath Das Goswami is a known person, and everybody hears about the appearance of Radha-Vinod deity. So wherever he goes, the locals, they're happily giving some food stuff. They're offering something to Radha-Vinod, and Radha-Vinod happily accepting. And providing sustenance for his devotees. So again, it's another story how Krishna seemingly tricks his devotee, but he just wants to serve his devotee. He's so much captured. His heart is absolutely captured by the love and devotion of Lokanath Das Goswami. So this very Radha-Vinod is in that little place, seemingly little place, but it's so beautiful and so sweet. And we have a beautiful pujari there from Bengal. His name is Parikshit Maharaj, who is very happy to see all the devotees. And really, he is always insisting, stay, I will cook feast, I will offer it to Radha-Vinod. And all of you, please take prasadam. So every time we end up having lunch, yeah, there he is at his place, honoring prasadam of Radha-Vinod. And then I just wanted to say one thing. We're going shortly, and that's for Devashish Prabhu. We're going to go to Radha-Madhav Temple of Jaydev Goswami. And if I close my eyes, I can still see a picture of us being there on our last pilgrimage to Jaipur. And I can still hear the voice of Sripad Devashish Prabhu telling us beautiful Susiddhanta of Srila Guru Maharaj, and also revealing the glories of Jayadev Goswami. So Devashish Prabhu, shortly after that, I would like to pass microphone to you. So in the meantime, we're going to go to Gopinat Temple, and I'm not sure if Keshavananda Prabhu is with us. Is he?
I'm taking a quick look. Anybody in the gathering call Keshavananda Prabhu?
If you can make some sound.
No. Oh no, where are you,
sorry.
Kesh?
Anyhow, so we're going to Radha Gopinath Temple. And I just have to say, I mean, we've all heard that Radha Gopinath was also discovered. It was installed by Vajranath during that time. And later on, it was hidden after the first wave of the Muslim invasion. And again, was rediscovered by Madhu Pandit, a great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, about whom we know very little. He was one of those devotees, along with Lokanath Das Goswami, Prabodhananda Saraswati, who specifically requested Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami not to mention their names. And even though Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami couldn't resist, but he shortly mentions them because they're such a wonderful devotees. We also hear that before Narottam Das Thakur, Srinivasacharya, Shyamananda Prabhu, they live with the works of Goswamis for Navadvip, for Bengal. They're specifically going to get blessings on request of Srila Jiva Goswami. They're going to see Madhu Pandit to get his blessings for that task, for that seva. So we're going to that beautiful temple, and the temple is actually a Haveli, and it's a Haveli is like a big aristocratic house. And normally it will be Krishna, who is the head of the family. He will be centered. The temple will be in the middle of Haveli. And there are so many different rooms because there's always lots of different family members who are just serving Krishna. He is like a part of their family. And later on, we'll see something similar in Nathadwara. So here we go. So he's there in that Haveli. And I have to say, and that confirms by so many devotees, while we're there, we just don't want to go anywhere. It's such a family-like atmosphere and mood that we all feel we can just stay there forever. And they have 24-hour kirtan. There's lots of eager participants, local people, especially local deities. They're coming and they're singing beautiful songs, obviously too high for us to imitate, but they can do the Jai Shila Radha Gopinath Juki Jai. And from here, two Mahamantras, Maharaj. We're going to a place called Kanak Vrindavan, or Little Vrindavan. And before Jaipur city manifested, that was the place where all the deities were actually housed in the beginning. So Radha Govinda was there, Radha Govinda were there, Radha-Madhav Mahan, they were all there. And now that temple is occupied by Radha-Madhava, the deities of Srila Jayadev Goswami. And we will hear from Sripad Devashish Prabhu. And then later on, Madhusudan Maharaj, microphone will be yours. We will go to Galta and we'll hear about the pastimes of protecting the dignity of our sampradaya by Baladeva Vidyabhushana. Devashish Prabhu.
So 2 Maha Mantras as we go to Radha-Vinod in Kanak Vrindavan. So Devashish Prabhu is seated beside us and in front of Radha-Vinod, and no distance separates us, and we're all together here. Devashish Prabhu, over to you, and if you just kindly unmute your microphone. Jai.
Hare Krishna. So again, a surprise appearance. I wasn't expecting to speak about anything, but I remember being with you all just a few years ago, and coming to this temple, and very nearby, very beautiful. Although we didn't go in at that time, but there are very beautiful gardens at that place with water fountains, and it was very wonderful. Like as Paramananda Prabhu said, like a small, there it is, yeah, small Vrindavan or miniature Vrindavan or like that, or new Vrindavan, or this way. And Jaydev Goswami Prabhu's Radha-Madhav deity there, and like so many of the Vrindavan deities, moved to find shelter against the onslaught of Aurangzeb. That was at that time in Jaipur, the king was Jai Singh, and Aurangzeb called him the lion. And although Aurangzeb he fought with Jai Singh many times, he could never defeat him, and he could never enter into Jaipur. It's surrounded on 3 sides by mountains, so inaccessible there, and the front big walls, and within those walls farmland. So no matter how long they lay siege, they could just feed themselves, because the whole city was designed in that way. They had their own agricultural base within the city. They didn't need to bring anything in. So he could never defeat him. Krishna very intelligently chose that place to take shelter from the onslaught of Aurangzeb. But yes, we came to this place where the deity of Radha-Madhav, the Jayadev Goswami's deities. And Jayadev was, of course, renowned, especially for the composing Gita Govinda. And you know, as we heard from Gurudev, when Mahaprabhu went to live at the Gambira in Puri, then Gurudev would say to us, understand what is his tasting matter. What is Mahaprabhu's tasting matter at this place? Already Advaita Acharya wrote that mystical message saying, you know, about the rice. You have flooded the market for rice. Nobody's buying rice anymore. You know, then you might as well shut up shop. You did what you needed to do. And in a mystical way, he gave this message to Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu understood, Swarup Damadar understood that this means, you know, that the preaching of Nama Sankirtan, that is finished. And his other purpose for appearing, his tasting matter, now that can begin in earnest. And so in the company of Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar, he began to taste the nectar of separation from Krishna. And what was his tasting matter? Gita Govinda. So Krishna Karnamritam, Gita Govinda, these he's discussing with Ramananda Rai and Swarup Damodar Goswami. and this Gita Govinda, it is very, it's rasa, pure Madhura rasa literature, and we are not venturing there, of course, in our unqualified position, but we understand that it is a great param scripture, shastra, and Jaydev Goswami, he was the court Pandit of Raj Lakshman Singh, who was the emperor. In fact, his palace was in Navadvip, but some centuries before Mahaprabhu appeared there. But there are many stories of his life, how he was, attacked by bandits and thrown into a well after they cut off his arms, and so many things. And these, miraculously, they were restored by the Lord, and he came back to the rescued and came to the palace of Raj Lakshman Singh, and his wife, her name was Padmavati, and she became a very close companion with the queen, Lakshman Singh's queen, and they would spend their time together. And one day the queen said to Padmavati, "Oh, I very much admire women that do sati, that when their husband dies, they join him on the funeral pyre, so that wherever he goes, she goes with him." She was telling like this. Of course, this is in a different age. This is one of the things that is forbidden in Kali Yuga. Sati is forbidden, although it did go on up until recently, and maybe a few hundred years ago in India. But actually, it's in this day and age, it's just murder, forcing the wife to be burnt to death, and nothing more than that, in fact. But anyway, this was another age, and the queen mentioned to Padmavati Devi, "Oh, I very much admire any women that they commit sati after their husband dies." And then Padmavati said, "Oh, actually, any chaste wife, as soon as she hears that her husband has died, she will immediately pass away herself. Not necessary for any sati or fire or anything. She'll immediately die if she is actually chaste." So the queen didn't really believe that. So she, one morning, maybe some weeks later, one morning she came in and met with Padmavati Devi, and she said, "Oh, sister, I am so sorry to hear that this morning your husband Jayadev, he died." And of course, immediately that she heard this, she just dropped down dead on the floor there. Then the queen thought, "Oh my God, what have I done?" Just for like testing her, I said these things. And then, she's like besides herself. She calls the king, and the king calls Jayadev, and they find, there's the dead body of Padmavati on the floor. And the situation's explained to her. The situation's explained to Jaydev, and Jaydev very quickly he takes sits next to the body of his wife, and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he calls her back. He calls her spirit back to her body, and she sits up. And so many like miraculous things in the life of Jayadev Goswami. But when he's composing the Gita Govinda, then during that time, he came to a point, and all the devotees know this, but he came to a point where he wants to write this verse that Lord Krishna takes the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani and places them on his head like a crown. And but he withdraws. He's thinking, "Oh, it's too much. I don't think I can write that. It's just too much." But that inspiration coming to him, then he thought, I'll stop my writing now. I'll go and take my bath and have prasadam and then think again what I shall do. So he tells his wife, now I'm going to take bath. You please prepare my prasadam. So he goes to the river to take bath. Almost immediately that he leaves, he returns again. Is the prasadam ready? Yes, my lord, prasadam is ready. So he sits down and takes the prasadam. And then he says, okay, I'm going back to my work, goes into his room and closes the door. Then a few minutes later, Jayadev comes in the other door. Is the prasadam ready? She says, what are you talking about? You just took prasadam.
Mhm.
And he's like, no, I've just come back from the river. I just had my bath and now I'm hungry. I want to take prasadam. And she said, no, you came and then you went in your room and you said, I'm going to finish my work and close the door. And then Jayadev could thinking, oh, this is what has happened. And he opened the door and went to his manuscript and he found that very verse that he was hesitating to write was written there in Sanskrit. And then he could understand, oh, Krishna himself has come disguised as me and he has taken your prasadam, he told his wife, and he has written this verse. The verse that I couldn't write, he has written that verse. So, and he was more actually, this is so wonderful that he came and he took your cooking. This is so wonderful. Personally, he took this, your own cooking, he told to his wife. Anyway, many wonderful things about Jaydev Goswami and his deity there, Radha-Madhav. And really, I think it's one of my favorite places in the world to go there. It's so beautiful, so peaceful, and just reminds us of Vrindavan and Krishna and Jayadev Goswami. What can we say? Wonderful place.
Jai. Jai Shri Radha-Madhav ki Jai. And please excuse, I think I may have said the wrong name earlier as we arrived in Kanak, Vrindavan, but indeed the deities are Radha-Madhav there of Jaydev Goswami. Devashish Prabhu, many thanks, and many thanks for those reminders of those amazing miracles. Hare Krishna, my goodness, we've come to Jaipur. So from Jaipur, yes, Paramananda Prabhu, here's our...
Two Mahamantras to Galta. How about that?
Well, I think we need 3.
Okay, yes, we have to cross through the whole city, yes. Microphone, Maharaj.
What? Okay, I've got it. So we've come to Galta, and as we've been arriving, almost always too, we see peacocks and monkeys on the way. And so we've come to still on the lowland, Galta, and we come to enter, and as we enter, so this looks like the the bus ride to Galta on the broad piece of road, but it comes onto a narrow piece of road presently, but very much the Rajasthan mood you saw in the video there on the screen. But as we're on the narrow road, approaching to where the end of the road is, we can't go anymore because there's a car park and then there's a hill going up. And as we come there, I think every time I've seen peacocks, we've seen peacocks left and right, and monkeys also. Monkeys, they live in Rajasthan, but then maybe not so naughty. Oh yes, we'll come to it. Some of them are naughty in Galta too. But where we've come to, it's clear when we enter inside, then we start to go up the hill, and just a little bit as we start to go up, it's clear that on the left and the right, here we are. We've got very old buildings and traditional old Rajasthani buildings that you saw there. But these are temples. On the left there's a temple, the right there's a temple, there's another temple, there's another temple. And this place, it is a seat of the Ramanandis, which is a section of the disciples of Ramanuja, or the line of Ramanujacharya. And Ramanujacharya, of course, one of the four principal Vaishnava Sampradayas, and Mahaprabhu giving all credit to them, especially for the Dasya Rasa relationship, that the Jiva soul is an eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord, this personal relationship with the Lord. But we've heard that the kings generally were Vaishnavas and of Gaudiya Vaishnava section, and Govindaji is being looked after in the king's palace by the Bengali pujaris, by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and the Ramananda group, then the Ramanandis, then they are very scholarly and they know lots of the scripture. They know so many things from the scripture, how to do worship, this, that, and the other. And they challenged that, Govinda is being worshipped. And there was some question or dispute about, Radha is being worshipped with Radha and Govinda. And anyhow, the detail of the challenge came down to more or less that the Ramanandis, they are accusing that the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they are not bona fide in the sense that they don't have their own commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, the ancient scriptures. And they're saying, therefore, they are not bona fide. We are bona fide. We are in one of these four sampradayas, and we are bona fide. We should be worshipping the deity and not the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And they essentially made a takeover scheme, takeover plan to take over the worship of the deity. And this disturbed the king very much. This is one of these ancient, very old temples there. So this disturbed the king very much. And then this dispute became known, and the king sent a messenger to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan was Vishwanath Chakravarti, which all of you have heard many times, Srila Goswami Maharaj quoting from Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentaries. And Vishwanath Chakravarti, very most erudite and understood to be like the leader of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But he was very elderly at that time. The king called him, please come here and settle this once and for all with these, the Ramanandis who are challenging. And so, but then Vishwanath Chakravarti, he was aged and he was not able to come. At that time, everything is by foot or bullock cart, not as we came from Vrindavan today by 2 Mahamantras and a train journey, but by foot all the way through the jungles and the danger and everything. So Vishwanath Chakravarti, he gave this service to Baladeva Vidyabhushana. And Baladeva Vidyabhushana, he was very erudite, very scholarly, and he had become a Gaudiya Vaishnava. And he was completely sold out and very clear that, this Gaudiya Vaishnavism, this is everything. And so he had received training from the different Gaudiya Vaishnavas, including Vishwanath Chakravarti, who gave him much recognition. And so he deputed Baladev Vidyabhushana to go to meet the Ramanandis. But very briefly, what took place is that he faced their challenge and he answered their challenges, but the Ramanandis, they were stuck on one point. Okay, but you don't have your own bhasya, your own commentary of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and therefore we cannot accept you. So therefore we will take over. And then Baladev Vidyabhushana, he did some negotiation perhaps and said, okay, then we will come with this bhasya for you. And with some internal backing, some inspiration, then the Ramanandis, they said, okay, you have, sometimes we hear different numbers of days, but generally understood to be 18 days. After 18 days, we will meet back here, and then it will be settled once and for all. And remember, this is a time when there are many witnesses and many people come to see a debate. It's not just two people sitting in a coffee shop having a discussion over something. It's like a formal debate which took place in the time of Guru Maharaj.
And Maharaj, just to mention that even 18 days was like a joke, because really to compose Bhashya on Vedanta, sometime for other lines, sampradayas of the Vaishnavas, took not just days, months, or years, but generations of work. But certainly many years of work. So even that was like, they were almost laughing. Okay, go ahead and try it.
And these debates, they were done very publicly. And in the time of Srila Guru Maharaj also, then we heard from Guru Maharaj about how such debates took place and how Guru Maharaj himself was invited because there was a great Pandit who couldn't be defeated. And Srila Jajava Maharaj prayed for Guru Maharaj, please, you come, this big scholar, he's disturbing so much the preaching mission. And this way Guru Maharaj came, and then a full public debate took place and everything settled. So we understand that these debates, they've been going on for generations. And in this way, very publicly, a debate was arranged. So 18 days later. So Baladev Vidyabhushana, he came to Govindaji. Remember, just nearby, Galta is just a very short distance from Jaipur. And so he came to Govindaji, and then he's submitting to Govindaji and explaining to Govindaji perhaps the situation, and how can this be done? And as a fully surrendered soul, then he gets this inspiration from Govindaji in whatever way came to him, but this is not by way of, oh, I had a dream and I think it's good, but rather he's getting direct instruction from Govinda. You hold the pen, I will make the pen write. I will write everything. You hold the pen and you write basically as my dictation. And in this way, within this, as Paramananda Prabhu said, extremely short time for doing such a commentary, within this very short time, then what became known as the Govinda Bhasya was written, compiled, composed as the commentary on this scripture. And previously, by the way, in the debate which had taken place before this, then Baladev Vidyabhushana had said, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas do have their commentary. It's called the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is the natural commentary given by Vedavyas himself. But the Ramanandis wouldn't accept that. He said, yes, but we all read Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's why they're saying you have to have your own specific commentary. So this way, the Govinda Bhasya came about, or the Bhasya came about. He brought this back to Galta, and there in Galta, they were all stunned. And they're brilliant scholars, they are devotees, everything. And they could recognize, okay, we are defeated. This Baladev Vidyabhushana, he's stood up for this dignity of what is the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And the king was super joyful. And again, the worship with the Bengali Gaudiya Vaishnava priests, the worship of Radha Govinda started up again in full glory. So in brief, this is what took place there at Galta, and the whole area, it is, it just has a very auspicious mood. That wonderful things have taken place here, and it's at the foot of a hill, and going up this valley up to the top of the hill, there's a cave where one great sadhu stayed. There's water which is said to be non-different from the Ganges water, which comes out for like halfway up the hill for no apparent reason. You know, it flows into a kund there, so it's a popular bathing place for the pilgrims. And at the top of the hill, and generally we do go to the top of the hill, there's a temple where the worship of the sun god takes place, Surya, and they, in the priest and the family of the priest up in that temple of the sun god, we go there, we ask permission, can we chant? And we are chanting Jaya Radha, Jaya Krishna, Jaya Vrindavan, all of our songs. And they don't want the devotees to leave. They just love to have the devotees there. And this temple, it overlooks the whole of the city. And we go there, we see over the city. And they're always very generous to hand out some prasadam. And especially banana prasadam has been offered to the deity. Oh, there you are, looking out over the city from the Surya Dev temple. But here at this temple, the monkeys are evident, and you have a bit of a challenge to eat your prasadam banana without it being confiscated by the local monkeys. So,
Maharaj, just to mention, when we came there first time, the head pujari was there, and we had a kirtan, and he said, please continue, please continue. I said, no, we have to go. So he's blocking the way. He's standing like that. No, and I thought he just wants some donations. I'm pulling out the money and I'm giving him like 2,000 rupees. And I thought he will be satisfied with that. He said, no, Prabhu, I don't need your money. If you want, I can give you some so that you can just stay here and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So rarely you come here and I'm so happy. So we had to stay there for another half an hour and continue that.
Jai. And we all have some wonderful experience going up there, coming back from there. It's another part of they're happy being with the Vaishnavas on pilgrimage and remembering the auspicious places. And so going to Galta, going up to the top of the hill, simply really to be with the devotees and doing something in an auspicious place, and then chanting at the top of the hill. It's all very sweet. And yes, we have some other experiences. Devotees very thirsty. And then when we are coming back down, and Krishna, out of nowhere, a sadhu comes along, says, oh, come and drink, come and drink. And so sadhu invites us to drink. Many things which we think, oh, extraordinary. How do these things take place? And anyway, very beautiful. And this is the path, maybe. Yes, must be if they've selected that picture. All right, anyway, Paramananda Prabhu, there are so many places. Ah, yes, there we are, going to the top. There are so many places, and basically our time is up. And some years we have, in fact, only once in my life have I ever gone now from Jaipur, going back to Jaipur from Galta, etc., and then going on to Nathadwara. So only once ever have I gone to Nathadwara, which is the place where Madhavendra, the deity discovered by Madhavendra Puri, as we heard quite extensively when we were at Govindakund, that deity, which was installed atop of the Govardhan hill, that deity now is in Nathadwara and is known as Srinathji. And this deity is at a town called Nathadwara, but I think today we don't have time to go, Paramananda Prabhu. What do you say?
We can, because we can, like you said, so we can extend our time by 10 minutes.
Okay, so I tell you what we're going to do. Because we can, and we are graced by Paramananda Prabhu, empowering us that we can, we're going to extend the program a few minutes. So we're going to come back from Galta. We're going to come back to Jaipur. In Jaipur, then we'll have our evening program in Jai Nivas, the place where we stay there, with the public and with our devotees. And they give this opportunity, morning, evening, all the time. And with a day's notice, they arrange a gathering of the public and people who stay there. And if the weather's fine, we're on the roof. If it's not fine, they give us a place inside. And we do our evening program, get ready. Tomorrow, we'll go by train down to Nathadwara. So now is already tomorrow because we can. And we're going to go immediately by train to Nathadwara with 2 Maha Mantras. And on the way, look out of the window because you'll see maybe like 4 or 5 distinctly different types of nature on the journey. And it's about a 6-hour train journey, I think, as far as I remember. But you'll see distinctly different landscape as we go to Nathadwara. So 2 Maha Mantras because we need to travel a little fast.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
And Leelavati Devi Dasi from China was singing there the Maha Mantra. And when we went to Nathadwara, then when we got off the train in Nathadwara, as soon as we got off the train, or just a couple of minutes later, Leelavati realized she left her tripod for the camera under the seat because she was filming. Oh, there's the tripod in her hand. And unbelievably, we went then to the station master, and then the station master telephoned to the train, which had already departed, to somebody on the train. And then the guard, he went to the carriage, they had the number, found the tripod, and then they said, okay, we'll keep it for you at, I forget the name of the last place of the train's destination. And that day itself, Leelavati, with one of the devotees, took a bus down to that place, collected the tripod and came back, which in itself is a miracle in my book in India. That was amazing. We couldn't hear you, Leelavati, but anyhow, that was very special. So you've brought us with Kirtan to Nathadwara, and anybody going to Nathadwara must have some very wonderful experience. Myself, I can say it was a very wonderful place, very narrow streets, very traditional. I don't think I saw any Westerner at all except our group. It was in Indian, sincere, like very sweet, innocent, pilgrim mood coming to have darshan of Srinathji in Nathadwara. We were there at Diwali time. We had wonderful hosts who invited us there. And at this point, having reached there, I'll pass you over to Paramananda Prabhu again to help us understand where we are and the deity and the mood there in Nathadwara. Paramananda Prabhu.
Just a short story. How did Gopal went there? And really, it's a wonderful story. As we know, Aurangzeb, he came to Brajadam, and everybody suffered from that. So in a similar way, they came to the village where Gopal was, enshrined in the temple by Madhavendra Puri. We all know that story. But the previous emperor, Akbar the Great, he issued some kind of papers, protective papers for the deity. So the soldiers couldn't just destroy the deity because really, he appears to be quite large and quite heavy externally. So what did they do? They couldn't just leave him there. So they arrested him and they put him in prison in Mathura. Just think about it. They arrested Gopal and imprisoned him in Mathura. So at that time, the worship of Gopal was headed by the son of Balabhacharya. I think his name was, and maybe somebody can correct me, Vitaleshwar, something like that. Anyhow, so he said, we got to do something. So the original village consisted of 30 families. All of them realized if they are to do something about that, they're all going to get killed, or every single one of them. So all of them gather their belongings and get ready to run. And somehow, I don't know details, they broke him out of that Mathura prison. Maybe they killed few Muslim soldiers in the process, who knows? And then they loaded him on a bullock cart, and then they just left. And that journey, it is said, took them 3 years before they could settle in one place. Why? Because Aurangzeb was so powerful and everybody was so scared of his wrath that nobody would give shelter. And they went from one kingdom in Rajasthan to another, but everybody said, yeah, you can stay here for a week, but we cannot shelter you here forever because our kingdoms will be destroyed. And then at some point, they're reaching this kingdom of Mewar. And they're approaching the people of Mewar, the government of Mewar. And then the government of Mewar, actually, the real Maharaja is Lord Shiva himself. So they have a Maharana, like a general, a prime minister, who is ruling on behalf of Lord Shiva, whose name there is Ekaling Raja. So he's saying, why am I afraid of some kind of a Muslim king? My Lord is Shiva himself. It's nothing for him. Like in Gurudev's words, snidging matter. That Muslim king cannot do anything here. So please stay as long as you wish. If Gopal would like to stay here forever, we will be very happy. Of course, the battle started. They fought and they fought and they fought. Nobody was winning. Everybody was bleeding and losing soldiers and money and everything else, to the point that Aurangzeb started playing with the Maharana of Mewar. They reached agreement. Maharana agreed to pay some money to keep the prestige of Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb promised he is not going to go after Gopal and 30 families. That was settled. And then later on, the priest received some kind of a revelation from Gopal. And Gopal says, oh, please load me back on the bullock track. Let's go for a walk. And they started traveling. And then at some point, they're reaching this area which really resembles, externally, very much resembles Vrindavan. There is a river that looks just like Jamuna, and a hill exactly like Govardhan. Even the rocks look like Govardhan. And then the bullock cart stops, and they couldn't move it. And then that night, they decided to stay there, and then Gopal appears again to all the members, 30 family members. And he says, I would like to stay here. I would like you to stay with me. So this is how it's all started. So when you go there, there's this old part of the city where those houses are still preserved. I mean, people are still living in there. And Goswami Maharaj had a wonderful disciple there. And we would normally stay with his family, and they will show his ancestral home where the original settlers of Nathadwara stayed. And really, it's the town that is full. Here you go, that's the house. What's so amazing about it is the mood of people. And like I already mentioned in the past, we went to different darshans. But what shocked me is how people are eager to enter, to get a darshan of Gopal. They're like banging on the doors, they're trying to open the doors, they're literally like scratching, jumping on it. And they're like elderly people. And then I made a comment to our host. I said, he must be one of those pilgrims who wanted all his life to come here and have the darshan. He said, no, it's uncle such and such. He's been here forever. He's one of those originals. That means, and he's like 70 years plus by the look of him. And that kind of eagerness in all of them, they're all just rushing to see. And that host, who happened to be one of the, let's just say, I don't know how to put it nicely, bosses of local, let's just call it mafia, little mafia.
Influential people.
I know, yes, Maharaj, thank you very much. A boss of the influential people of Nathadwara. And where I'm looking, where he took me to Govardhan, we're having a darshan of Govardhan. And he's looking at the watch, say, are you hurry somewhere? You have an appointment? He said, no, no, no. Gopal is going to have this wonderful dress today. We're going to see it. I said, Prabhu, can we just be here? You know, have some lunch later. He said, no, no, you don't understand. That dress is so beautiful. I saw it last month. It was amazing. I have to see it this month too. So he was just so much eager to go there for the darshan. And really, when you go there, it's like a big house. They don't call it a temple. They call it Haveli, meaning that they are living with Gopal together. He is their family member. And each family member, they go and serve in different departments. There is a department of Prashadam, a Boga, flower department, musician department, this department, that department. And they're all getting paid. But how are they getting paid? By Mahaprashadam. So you see in the evening, they're all very happy and they're carrying the pots of Mahaprashadam back to their family. And really the whole atmosphere is absolutely stunning. That devotion that we can just perceive just by observing their behavior, their eagerness to have darshan, their wonderful service in the temple, singing, and the happiness in their faces. And of course, I went to Goshala, and Maharaj being there to Goshala of Gopal. He has many Goshalas. In such a short time, Maharaj.
I know. And we just had Go Puja just now. And during that Go Puja time, actually we were there for Go Puja. We were there for Diwali. And we see how these, oh, there we are, look. They dress up the cows. And these cows, we were in the Goshala. They have their hierarchy. And they have their queen cow, whatever the name of that cow is, I don't know. But really, they have a whole nature and family, and we see that sweet nature, the personality of every cow, just like in the personality of families. Anyhow, really, we've made a very quick visit to Nathadwara, but it is so special. And again, this deity, this is the deity revealed by, or who revealed himself to Madhavendra Puri at Govinda Kund by Govardhan Hill, and so very closely related to us. Again, we are coming to these places which have been visited by the great personalities in the past, following in their footsteps, coming on pilgrimage, and with devotees coming on pilgrimage, and with you coming on pilgrimage this year, 2021, and painlessly, without risk of leaving anything behind on the train, without risk of anything, just coming very happily for the substance of the pilgrimage, which is association, chanting the holy names and hearing something of the glories of the holy places. And the only thing we are sad we cannot do, but somebody said maybe in the future, we can't distribute Mahaprasadam via the internet, via Zoom. We would like to all take prasadam together at the end of the day, chant Hare Krishna, and be happy. So this does conclude our parikrama, and this is the extended day of parikrama. And indeed, Srila Goswami Maharaj, he passed this day over to Paramananda Prabhu and to myself, but he passed it over to us because generally he comes to Vrindavan and Govardhan. And then if we do some extra parikrama like this, then we're going on ahead. And Goswami Maharaj happily, he said, yes, please you do, but you do because you're familiar with those places much more. And indeed, I am not so familiar, but to come with Paramananda Prabhu, then we are able to hear more things, more of the history, more of the Leela of the devotees and the Lord, which makes Jaipur and Nathadwara and Galta, the places we visit, very special for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Time for Hari Haraya Nama Krishna and Jais, handing everything over to Gupta Govindam Temple, our host for these parikramas. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.
Okay, maybe you do it.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama
Hari.
Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhava Krishna. I'm very tempted to do Mangal Maharaj's style ki jai.
You can do Paramananda style Ki Jai and try to include the deities in Jaipur that we did visit today, that we had darshan of today.
Jai Shri Parikara Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Ji Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giraj Govardhana Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ji Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Ji Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Madan Mahan Ji Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha-Damodar Ji Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Ji Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha-Vinod Ji Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha-Madhav Ji Ki Jai. And Jai Gopal Nathaji Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindaji Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Jaydev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchitananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Srila Krishna Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Srila Lokanath Das Goswami Ki Jai. Jai Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Baladeva Vidyabhushana Ki Jai. Narottam Das Thakur Srinivasacharya Shimananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindadevi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Gangamaya Munamaya Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham. Shri Purushottam Dham. Shri Navadip Dham. Shri Nathadwara Dham. Shri Jaipur Dham. Galta Dham Ki Jai. Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mata Shari Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Om Sripad Srila Bhakti Sri Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Sripad Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Sripad Srila Bhakti Bimala Madhud Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sripad Jaydev Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Kartik Parikram Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Stein Shri Tamrita Ki Jai. Govinda Bhashya Ki Jai.
Jai Sripad Paramananda Prabhu Ki Jai. All the assembled, as Gurudev would say, devotees Ki Jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, dear devotees, this concludes the parikramas at this time, the parikramas of Vrindavan first, and then now Govardhan, and then today extra to Jaipur, Galta, and to Nathadwara. But tomorrow is Srila Prabhupada, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's disappearance day. And so 11 a.m. Thai time, this same Zoom URL, all are invited. So we may hear something of the glories of Srila Prabhupada and our Sampradaya.
Jai. And
Nitai Gaur
Dandavats to everyone.
Dandavats to one and all. Right, we can do a big wave to everybody from this side of the world. One by one by one.
Dandavat.
Dandavat, Dandavat. And I know Goswami goes through one by one, but I'm a fallen soul. I give my obeisances to one and all, to the sannyasis. Dandi Maharaj is with us. Sripad Rishikesh Maharaj. And all of the Vaishnavas, we have so many senior Vaishnavas with us too. Kumkum Devidasi, we saw Sri Lekar a few moments ago. And all devotees.
We have temples with us, Maharaj. We have a whole Tomsk temple with us. We have Gupta Govardhan, obviously. East London Mat with Sripad Devashish Prabhu. Divya Shakti Salt Lake City Temple. China Bhakta Vrinda. And we see Dandi Maharaj. He is with the room full of devotees.
And Muktinath Prabhu escaped from Italy, but he's safe and sound in Kaliningrad, not escaped from Italy. He's necessary to continue. So Muktinath, missing your association here. And to all of you, one by one, my humble obeisances, wishing you wonderful days. And if you get the chance to listen live or the recording tomorrow from Gupta Govardhan, Thailand time, 11 a.m. Dandavat Pranam, dear devotees. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the Thailand tech team, the TTT, for making all this possible.
Yes, Devendra Prabhu, Jamuna Didi, Priyanana Didi, Jyoti Sundar Prabhu, and everybody else, Maharaj.
And everybody else. Yes, exactly.
Everybody. But you have to feed them. You have to make them happy so that their seva is very of a high quality, let's just say.
Best quality. And for the translators, to Praneshwari Devi Rasi, she's been translating all this while quietly in the background. Sulakshana Devi Rasi and Nityananda Prabhu.
Till this day, it's a mystery how Sulakshana can translate simultaneously from English to Chinese. If you know a little bit of Chinese, truly it's a miracle.
Hare Krishna. And we saw the photo of Praneshwari, who's with us on Srila Govinda Maharaj's Sannyas Day. Not only she was there, she was seated there while he's having the fire yagya, and we saw her photo. So you see, we are in very exalted company here today. All right, Dandavat Pranam. We'll meet you all again soon. Munindra Mohan Prabhu, I'll see you in a minute. He's out there at the kiosk, all of the Italian section of devotees. Jai. Our Jai Shekhar Prabhu also in the sun. And there, the first picture here, the deities now in Chiang Mai. Shishi Guru Gauranga Radha Govinda Sundar Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari. Dandavat one and all. Hare Krishna.